Hello everyone, today I will tell you the story of Desert Flower, a 2009 drama movie. A 3-year-old girl's legs are forced apart by her mother. Amid her heartbreaking cries, an old woman coldly uses a razor blade to remove her genitals. Then she takes a needle and thread to stitch it up. She used a wooden spike to make a hole so that the girl can continue to excrete urine and menstrual blood. There is no sterilization or anesthesia throughout the process. A horrifying circumcision is carried out in the rocky countryside. In those days, all women born in Somalia had to undergo circumcision. Otherwise, it is a sign of impurity, as the wound could get infected. The mother leaves her daughter in the wild. If she is still alive the next day, she is eligible to be taken home. After a day and night of torment, the 3-year-old Waris survives. But her misfortune is just beginning. The pain of her wound gives her a high fever for several days. She struggles through the most painful moments. When Waris had just reached the age of 12, her father sells her to a 60-year-old man for the price of 5 camels, and she becomes his 4th wife. Waris cries in the dark. She doesn't want to succumb to the hardships of life anymore, so she escapes from the marriage at night to find her grandmother. The mother silently watches her daughter gradually leave. Perhaps not stopping Waris's escape is her final love. The dry desert stretches as far as the eye can see. The skinny Waris has to walk a long way without fear of hardship. Her feet are worn out. She gnaws on branches when she is hungry. When she is tired, she sleeps on the ground. In the end, Waris perseveres and arrives at her grandmother's house. The grandmother looks at the child with pity. She can't bear to send Waris back to the desert. However, the family's financial situation is indeed limited. The grandmother has to find Waris a job as a city maid. Waris works as a maid for 7 years. 7 years later, war breaks out in Somalia. Waris loses her job and wanders the streets of Britain. Because Waris doesn't speak English and communication is difficult, she returns to a diet of starvation. When she is hungry, she has to search for food in the garbage bin. But even if her life is in such dire straits, Waris does not want to go back to Somalia. One day, Waris sees a beautiful dress in a mall. She can't help but display the dress in front of the mirror. Sales clerk Marilyn sees this and comes over to explain. However, Waris is very scared. She drops the dress and runs. Then they encounter each other on the bus. Marilyn realizes Waris's situation and out of kindness, she takes Waris to her place. The house manager, Pushpa, is reluctant to accept strangers. But Waris not only kisses her hand, but also politely calls her mom. Pushpa immediately changes her mind. She makes an exception and allows Waris to stay. But Waris doesn't want to live off Marilyn for free. So early the next day, she cleans Marilyn's house. Marilyn's affection for her immediately grows. Marilyn finds Waris a job as a waitress to make a living. At the end of the day, Marilyn invites Waris to a nightclub. Waris meets someone who likes her there, but she chooses to run away in shame and fear. Waris comes home to see Marilyn and her boyfriend being affectionate. Waris can't accept this. In her worldview, a respectable woman should protect her chastity. Afterwards, they sit together and chat. Marilyn realizes that there is a huge difference in the treatment of women. The woman lifts her skirt, revealing her circumcised body. When her best friend sees it, her surprise turns into heartbreak for Waris. Marilyn can't imagine the pain of having one's vagina cut off and stitched together. Waris learns today that not all women have to endure the pain of circumcision. In her hometown, a woman's life is inseparable from circumcision. That's why it takes Waris so long to go to the bathroom, but her unfortunate fate finally turns for the better. The day Waris works in a restaurant, famous photographer Donaldson gives her a business card. As it turns out, Donaldson has long noticed Waris's outstanding qualities. He wants to invite her to work with him. However, Waris doesn't know that the man in front of her is a celebrity. She forgets the business card and goes back to work. The next day, while they are talking in the park, Waris suddenly feels pain. Marilyn quickly takes her to the hospital. A male doctor examines her. Waris tries to escape. But because of the pain, she lies down, both scared and fearful. After the examination, she realizes that the pain is a consequence of the circumcision. This kind-hearted doctor assures her that the doctors can't help her recover what she has lost, but they can help alleviate her pain. The doctor is worried that Waris doesn't understand English, so he asks Somali male nurse Harold to translate for her. The doctor says he will perform the surgery on her as soon as possible. But Harold says that for Waris, showing her bottom to a white male is shameful. Our traditions have nothing to do with them. The doctor is shocked by the long pain and torment she has endured. But he can treat Waris. Harold says that if Waris changes, she will betray her parents, her people, and her traditions. Waris is in physical pain. Waris is listening to this emotional shock. She can't help but cry. She finally leaves the hospital, both sad and disappointed. Waris walks on the street. A woman sitting behind a glass catches her attention. The woman is wrapped in black cloth. Only her eyes are free. Waris couldn't let go of the suffocating feeling of confinement for a long time. What is the point of escaping death if she chooses to give up now? Waris is still bound by these inhumane shackles. Marilyn is by her side. Waris continues with the surgery. She finds Donaldson at the address on his business card. This time she wants to break free and live for herself. Donaldson takes many photos of Waris and tells her to take them to an agency. As it turns out, Donaldson has a very accurate eye. Waris's delicate features and natural wildness can't be found in ordinary people. As soon as she appears, photographers are scrambling to take her picture. Her agency even invites her to participate in the Paris runway show. Waris tells Marilyn the good news. Marilyn is very happy for her. She voluntarily proposes to practice catwalk with her in the corridor. Waris goes from cautious in high heels to a better feeling for this show. She thinks her exciting moment is about to come. The head of the agency angrily throws her passport in front of her. As it turns out, Waris's passport is 6 years old. She is now at risk of being deported as an illegal resident. Suddenly, her grand fantasy is shattered. Everyone is nervous. Neil from the agency suddenly kneels down and proposes to Waris. All Waris has to do is pretend to marry and then get a passport to reach the Paris runway. Waris has to live with Neil, even though Neil truly loves her. But Waris always carefully keeps her distance from him. Waris cares more about breaking through the barriers of fate than love. Not long after, Waris's legal papers are issued. She finally goes to Paris without guilt. This is a circumcised runaway girl moving from the barren desert to the international stage. Waris becomes one of the world's top models overnight. Her legendary story is astonishing. Not long ago, Waris was a desperate woman looking for food in the garbage. During her work, she meets the photographer Donaldson. That's why she starts in the supermodel industry. But when the best-selling magazine interviews her about this, Waris wants to say something different in front of the camera. She says, what truly changes her is the experience of undergoing circumcision at the age of 3. Her mother ignores her struggle and cries. She lets an old woman without medical knowledge cut and sew her body with an unsterilized blade. Although her mother is sad, she doesn't stop her, because this is what every woman goes through. The infection and complications of the wound lead to the death of her 2 sisters, but this doesn't change the status of circumcision in people's hearts. Women who have not been circumcised are not chaste enough. Her family and her are discriminated against. It's this terrible practice that makes Waris want to escape at all costs. Waris would rather live on the streets than go back to her hometown. After Waris finishes speaking, the interviewers on the stage are already in tears. As women, they cannot imagine what that is like. Now Waris's career is very successful. She shines confidently on the T stage. Her wild eyes are unforgettable. She finally breaks free and becomes a determined and dazzling desert flower. But Waris doesn't stay in the life of fame and fortune for long. The pain of her childhood circumcision has deeply rooted in her bones. Unforgettable childhood memories give her a deep sense of purpose. Waris wants to use her influence to help other Somali girls escape the pain of circumcision. Subsequently, she gives up her career and becomes a special ambassador for the United Nations. Waris establishes the Desert Flower Foundation and sets up several charities. Waris is fully committed to the anti-circumcision movement. She also gives a speech to the world at the podium of the United Nations headquarters. Waris calls for attention to the plight of Somali girls and raises funds to build schools and hospitals for her compatriots. In the 29 countries where circumcision is practiced, hundreds of millions of women suffer pain. To this day, in some economically distressed areas, more than 6,000 girls are still circumcised every day. Thanks to Waris and the Foundation's efforts, circumcision has been officially banned in many countries. Waris not only changes her own life, she also saves countless girls who are about to suffer. She gives them a complete childhood, a blossoming future. Waris may have never thought. She is the first person to dare to oppose the banned tradition alone. the woman who dares to publicly oppose circumcision. It is her selflessness and courage that brings the light of civilization to the world. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like. It really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching. For